Welcome to worship with the community of First Unitarian Church of Omaha. My name is Peg Pigeon, and I'll be serving as your worship associate this morning. Whether you're attending online or in person, I'm glad you've chosen to join with us in worship today, especially visitors. Let's take a moment to welcome whoever is sitting next to you. All right, thank you. This congregation works hard to be an inclusive community that listens, engages, inspires, and acts. Our mission is to foster the whole person with compassion and justice. We also affirm that our church occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha, the Otoe, Missouri tribal nations, and express our respect to the Northern Ponca, Winnebago, and Santee Sioux tribes. Please join us in giving voice to and supporting local causes, charities, and rights of Indigenous peoples. This is the announcements. If parked in the garage to the west, always remember we have a parking validator in the foyer. And Sarah Copeland has something that she wants me to read as an announcement. It is, of course, about our very famous once-a-year auction. Our Heart and Hand auction is coming up, and we're already making waves. Last year, we had over 200 items and raised more than $13,000. This year, we're approaching 100 items so far, and we can still receive donations through October 12th. Don't wait to contribute. We are still looking for events, Skillshare classes, or items in like-new condition. A quick reminder, bidding is online only from October 17th to 24th, and on the 24th, we'll gather for our annual party, complete with a costume contest, potluck, cash bar, door prizes, and a live dessert auction. You don't want to miss it. And they do have an auction table downstairs, so if you want to either pick up something like this so you can get more information or talk to them about donating something. And now Terry Lynn is going to give us an announcement about AVP.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, our church is very supportive of AVP, or Alternatives to Violence Projects, where we work with the gentlemen in work release program at the Omaha Correctional Institute. And every year we've asked for cards that the guys pass out because they can't get cards because and also this year we're asking for calendars. The guys cannot have any kind of electronic devices, so they have to write down their appointments, their school schedules. So I'm going to put a basket downstairs so you can bring calendars for the gentlemen. And they really, really appreciate it. They just absolutely love getting the cards, and this year we're asking for calendars. Thank you.
And now our prelude. this morning, Terry Lynn will light the flaming chalice, the symbol of our faith. As the chalice is lit, I invite you all to join in the chalice lighting words. Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation, as we kindle this flame, we can rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. And in addition, Terry Lynn is going to light the sabbatical candle. This is the 14th week of our minister's sabbatical. We trust that this candle will light her way back to us come November.
Who makes the world anew each day? Who names things, that is, who names the heat of a summer afternoon, or the cold and dark of winter, or the falling, leaping, singing skeleton leaves of autumn? Who names the budding, glowing, damp, rich wonder of spring? No dodging the question, my friend. Own up, confess, it's you. Yours is the eye of the beholder, yours the voice, the pen, the measuring intellect, naming, building, seeking, formulating in the face of the cosmos. And this is no small presence. Yours are the hands which join the corners, bolt the pieces, reach toward the heavens, bind the stars together in constellations and chemistry. The world is yours, yours to touch, yours to seek, a power not to squander thoughtlessly, because what I want to know is, what are you going to do to make the future better than the past? Come, let us worship together. And I invite you to stand as you're so inclined and join in singing our opening hymn, number 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And I might add that about the time Oscar Micheaux, whom we're going to be talking about, began to make movies, the NAACP declared this the Black National Anthem. So it's a very robust, celebratory song.
Each week, we share our blessings with others through a community offering. Half of the loose currency in the offering plate is donated to a local cause which resonates with UU values. Our Share the Plate recipient for October is Claire Cares Food Pantry. It's almost Thanksgiving, and Claire Memorial, UMC, is preparing to provide turkeys and other traditional Thanksgiving fare at November's food pantry. Please give what you can and help this church to serve members of our community that really need help. Thank you. And they'll take up the offertory. Thank you, Jay. Now we'll hear from the Sanctuary Singers, I Dream a World by Andre Thomas. We now enter the part of our service devoted to care and centering. I want to remind everyone that there is a book in the back of the church where you can share your joys and concerns. We'll convey those joys and concerns out loud as part of our worship service. For those who do not wish to share out loud, you are welcome to place a stone in the collective chalice in front and to join silently with others in the community. Those watching online can put items to be shared in the comments to be read aloud. And we'll take some time for that now. Thank you, Jay. Did we have anything in the book? Colin, do you have something?
From Jack Heidel, saying Sharon Conlon is celebrating the birth of her first grandchild, Verity, a girl, and is visiting her in Ohio.
Colin? Oh, do you have something else? No?
This is from Doug saying, beautiful anthem choirs, thank you.
All right, our centering song is Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Oh, 188.
I don't know anything about the back roads of Nebraska, but years ago, driving the back roads of Indiana, I was prompted to write a poem, The Proper Way to Treat a Turtle. A naturalist once told me how you ought to treat a turtle if you encounter one, that is, halfway across a highway, crawling with great labor but painfully slow. She told me you should stop and pick it up and carry it the remaining distance across the road before some car speeds by and does what big machinery too often does to small and helpless things. On reaching the far side, you set the turtle down. Be sure to point it in the direction it was headed when first you laid eyes on it. That, I'm told, is what we ought to do with turtles. Should that not be as well what we ought to do with our fellow human beings? I now invite us into a moment of silent meditation. I'll lead into the topic of Oscar Micheaux. I'm going to quote what some film scholars have had to say about him over the years. Peter Sobczynski wrote on RogerEbert.com, Oscar Micheaux was a man with a life and career so astonishing that not only is it eminently worthy of documentary treatment, but if someone tried to pitch it as a screenplay, there's a very good chance it might get rejected on the basis that his story was simply too good to be believable. He had a filmmaking career that would consist of more than 40 films, including Within Our Gates of 1920, a blistering riposte to The Birth of a Nation, and Body and Soul 1925, which marked the screen debut of Paul Robeson, and which would be named to the National Film Registry in 2019. His career stretched until a couple of years before his passing in 1951, and make him, in the words of one film scholar, quote, the most important black filmmaker who ever lived. Tambay Obeson on IndieWire.com writes, why has Hollywood still not given pioneering black filmmaker Oscar Micheaux his due? Contemporary black filmmakers like Spike Lee have been vocal about Micheaux's influence. Lee even once called Micheaux his idol, who inspired me to do my first film. In 1986, the Directors Guild of America honored Micheaux with a Lifetime Achievement Award. In 2010, the U.S. Postal Service issued Micheaux a commemorative stamp, and yet Micheaux has yet to be recognized in any way by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, aka the most famous and prestigious organization in the film world. And this suggests either total ignorance or perhaps a lack of appreciation among Academy brass for what he was able to accomplish as a black man in Jim Crow America. But it's time to do something about it. So, who is this guy, Oscar Micheaux? Well, I'm going to start with the silent film era's most famous director, D.W. Griffith. D.W. Griffith's Civil War epic, The Birth of a Nation, was released in 1915. And on the one hand, that movie was years ahead of its time technically. It made a ton of money. And on the other hand, it embodied the Southern lost cause myth, a kind of upside-down world where slave owners are all kindly and generous, enslaved people are happy to be enslaved, and everyone was content until those damn Yankees invaded and ruined everything. The title, The Birth of a Nation, refers to the founding of the Invisible Empire, the Ku Klux Klan, which Griffith assures us, quote, saved the South from the anarchy of black rule. And that quote should tell you all you need to know about that movie's racism. But our whole culture felt pretty much that way during the silent film era. Mainstream motion pictures rarely even showed non-white characters, and when they did, as in The Birth of a Nation, they were played by white actors in blackface makeup, usually as objects of ridicule or even loathing and fear. Movie theaters themselves were segregated, with black film goers restricted to separate but unequal areas, often a cramped balcony above the balcony, or they weren't even allowed in while white theater goers were there. They had to wait and attend after-hour screenings, so-called midnight rambles. But here's the point. Humanity and aspiration will find ways to transcend oppression. In our own time, when it seems as though some folks are trying to take us back to the upside-down ethics of the Jim Crow era, that's good to keep in mind. We all have more resilience than we know. There was a need in the 19-teens for motion pictures that featured black human beings, not just caricatures. So in 1916, two Chicago men, George and Noble Johnson, founded the Lincoln Motion Picture Company to make films featuring black actors in straight roles. And they produced several short subjects, and then a young fellow named Oscar Micheaux came to them with a novel he had written, The Homesteader. And Micheaux was even more remarkable than the Johnsons. After the Civil War, his parents had left the South and homesteaded just north of Kentucky on the north side of the Ohio River, outside the hamlet of Metropolis, Illinois. And there they enjoyed a high degree of integration for the Jim Crow era, including the school system. Their kids were allowed to go to school there. And Oscar was a good student, though as a black kid he got criticized for talking too much and asking too many questions. He was curious, extroverted, spoke easily to people. And as an adult, he followed Horace Greeley's counsel to go west, young man. And he homesteaded a farm in South Dakota. And he was a bit of a local curiosity there as a black farmer, but he managed to amass 800 acres. And then, during a drought, he took up novel writing, selling his books door to door. Oddly enough, he never learned to drive. He hired a chauffeur to take him from farm to farm, but he still turned a profit on his books. I'm jealous. He thought his novel, The Homesteader, would make a good movie, but being Oscar Micheaux, he demanded to direct the film himself. So the Johnson brothers passed on the film deal. Undeterred, Micheaux raised money, rented a camera and equipment, hired actors, and then drove to South Dakota and shot the movie himself. And The Homesteader was the first full-length motion picture made by and for black people. It is now lost to history, no copies remain, but black audiences in 1918 were starved enough for films that reflected their lives. It turned a nice profit. And Micheaux followed that with another full-length feature, this time writing the screenplay, producing, directing, and doing the camera work. And the title, Within Our Gates, comes from biblical law about the stranger that is within thy gates. The book of Deuteronomy commands, if a stranger sojourn with thee in thy land, thou shalt love him as thyself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Christian nationalists still ignore that rule. Micheaux actually had mixed feelings about Christianity. He accused preachers of working to keep the Negro in his place. But he knew his Bible. Made in 1918, Within Our Gates was thought to be lost until 1979, when a single print turned up in a mislabeled film canister in, of all places, Spain. Sections were missing. The dialogue had to be retranslated back into English. But the very fact that his movie made it to Europe shows the energy Micheaux put into distribution, which, like everything else, he did himself. Now, Micheaux denied that Within Our Gates was a reply to The Birth of a Nation, but that just doesn't wash. It directly reflects The Birth of a Nation in ways that cannot be accidental. Like The Birth of a Nation, it ends with a violent dual action sequence cut together in a parallel to the Griffith movie, but where The Birth of a Nation depicts a pair of rescues by Griffith's super-sanitized Ku Klux Klan, Within Our Gates depicts the lynching, not just of the heroine's father for a murder he did not commit, but also her mother just for being married to him, as well as the murdered man's black servant just for talking about it. As film critic Michael Glover Smith describes it, quote, "This lynching scene is intercut with an equally horrifying scene where a villainous middle-aged white man attempts to rape the young heroine, Sylvia, before recognizing a scar on her chest that identifies her as his own illegitimate daughter." And the clever intercutting, I'm still quoting, the clever intercutting of this climax intentionally unpacks the racist ideology of Griffith's similarly constructed The Birth of a Nation, close quote, in which black men repeatedly assault white women. Well, white men in blackface makeup. The upside-down patriarchalism of the Jim Crow era constantly fretted about non-white threats to white women's chastity. Within Our Gates depicts a real reality in a way Micheaux's black audiences had actually experienced, which the white mainstream refused to acknowledge. Micheaux does not depict all white people as evil. He places high value on white allies. White mobs, however, are a constant demonic presence. This was a world of violence and potential violence, which blacks actually faced in Jim Crow America. And for the record, Within Our Gates does not attain the level of movie magic of the Griffith films. How could it? Griffith had limitless funding and hundreds of workers. He had directed dozens of films before The Birth of a Nation. Micheaux was writing, producing, directing, and usually sole crew member on only his second film, On the Thinnest of Shoestrings. He introduces his heroine, quote, "Sylvia Landry, a school teacher who was typical of the intelligent Negro of our times," close quote. And Sylvia is played by multi-talented actress named Evelyn Prier, who would become an early star of the black stage and screen. And Sylvia is, quote, "visiting in the North where the prejudices and hatreds of the South do not exist, though this does not prevent the occasional lynching of a Negro," close quote. Sylvia is somewhat mysterious. She has secrets. She's in the North to seek funding for the Piney Woods School in Mississippi where she teaches. But she rejects advances from multiple black men, some of them real catches, and this includes she ignores the romantic cues of strong, well-educated Dr. Vivian, and she tells him that she's just too busy to indulge in romance. She says, "It is my duty and the duty of each member of our race to help destroy ignorance and superstition." And yes, Oscar Micheaux could definitely get preachy sometimes, but social uplift was an important theme to black intellectuals ranging from George Washington Carver to W.E.B. Du Bois to Langston Hughes, who wrote the lyrics to this morning's gift of music. Micheaux put Sylvia and himself squarely within the ranks of the uplifters. And that's another reply to D.W. Griffith, who hated uplifters. Griffith's 1916 movie, Intolerance, you may have heard of it, was an even bigger epic than The Birth of a Nation. I'll show a clip from it on Tuesday evening. The very title, Intolerance, is meant to condemn the intolerant uplifters. That's the term Griffith used, who ruin things for right-thinking folks such as himself. You might compare it to the way some folks today express disgust at what they call wokeism, which really has become the uplift of the 21st century. But back to Within Our Gates, a white philanthropist in the movie eventually does express interest in Sylvia's Piney Woods School. Alas, the philanthropist is hosting a guest from the South who detests blacks, along with any thought of educating them. Quote, lumberjacks and field hands, the guest says. That's all they're capable of being. Let me tell you, it is an error to try to educate them. And this bigoted woman is portrayed by Bernice Ladd, an actress with a striking physical resemblance to Lillian Gish, the female lead in The Birth of a Nation. And again, this parallel is too remarkable to be coincidence. To me, Micheaux is having and sharing with his black audiences a little sly fun at the expense of Griffith's movie-making team. It's not fun for Sylvia, though, as, quote, during that sleepless night she could think of nothing but the eternal struggle of her race and how she could uplift it. In the end, her work pays off big time. The philanthropist sees through the Southerner's prejudice and sends the Piney Woods School 10 times the amount they originally asked for. Now, needless to say, somebody sending a check to a struggling school is hardly a high-energy climax to a movie. So, to provide more action, Micheaux inserts a long flashback in which we learn about Sylvia's mysterious past. And this is where Micheaux depicts the lynchings, the attempted rape, and the revelation that Sylvia herself is the daughter of a philandering white landowner whose only decent act was to compensate the unnamed mother by paying for Sylvia's education. And if anyone thinks such a plot device is far-fetched, that is precisely the relationship South Carolina Senator Strom Thurmond had with his illegitimate black daughter, Essie Mae Washington Williams, as revealed in 2003. So she would have been about the same age as this movie. It would have been happening about the time that Micheaux depicted it. Now, this might have been life imitating art, but it was also a black movie maker depicting a reality of black life, which, again, early 20th century white audiences didn't want to hear about. Within Our Gates closing scene also parallels the final scene of The Birth of a Nation, as Dr. Vivian asks Sylvia to marry him. Dr. Vivian loves Sylvia no matter her origin, and implores her not to reject him just because he's American-born. Be proud of our country, he tells her. We should never forget what our people did in Cuba under Roosevelt's command, and later in France, from Bruges to Chateau Thierry, and from Saint Mihiel to the Alps. Be proud of our country, always. And that brought a tear to my eye, watching this poignant mix of words that said one thing and pictures that said quite another. Micheaux was not just saying, be proud of our nation, but more importantly, be proud of our people. And that's a good message. Difficult times are what they are today, as in Micheaux's time, but there are good people as well as heedless people. And that's a reminder to me to be proud of the people who keep striving to be their best in the face of evil times and to try to be one of them. I can only compare Oscar Micheaux's patriotism with D.W. Griffith's whining. And yes, whining is the appropriate word. When the newly founded NAACP criticized the Birth of a Nation's racism, Griffith self-published a 45-page pamphlet to complain about censorship and persecution and attacks on his freedom of speech, even as The Birth of a Nation was raking in millions of dollars. It was the biggest moneymaker of any motion picture clear into the 1960s. Powerful people singing the blues because the world isn't kowtowing to them enough has been going on for a very long time. Unlike Griffith, Micheaux had to deal with real censorship. When Micheaux submitted Within Our Gates to Chicago's Board of Censors, they banned it as too dangerous to show. And after 2 months of negotiations, remember we're dealing with Oscar Micheaux here, he's not going to take no for an answer. After 2 months of negotiations, he was finally allowed to present it with the assault and lynching scenes removed. In other words, he was allowed to show only the first half of the film and then close with Dr. Vivian proposing to Sylvia. Talk about the sanitized version. But for the record, censors in Omaha, New Orleans, and other cities also banned the film or demanded that it be cut. Later that same year, Micheaux released another controversial film, The Symbol of the Unconquered. And this time he took on the Ku Klux Klan itself. The Symbol of the Unconquered returns to the theme of black homesteaders on the Western Plains, and when corrupt white townsfolk learn the hero's land sits atop a valuable oil reserve, they send their night riders out to burn down his farm, frighten him away, and, if necessary, kill him. Like Within Our Gates, the Symbol of the Unconquered was considered lost for decades. This time, Belgium was the nation where a single print finally turned up. And I have to say, Micheaux's distributive go-getter attitude just blows me away. Unfortunately, one reel of this picture remains missing. They've never been able to, motion pictures came in multiple reels at the time. And it was the reel showing the Ku Klux Klan attack on the black prospector. From the synopsis that went out with the movie, black settlers drive the Klansmen off, throwing a hail of bricks and stones at them. And at some point, the idea of the Klan being driven away in such a humiliating manner was apparently too much for someone who had custody of the print, so that reel got disappeared. The surviving footage does show the Klan riders gathering. And it's a chilling scene. The evil gleam of the riders' hoods, torches burning, lightning-like flashes and streaks as they gallop past the camera on slow exposure 1920s era film at night. Micheaux's movies might even justify trigger warnings, but he was depicting realities that people like him knew all too well. And I will just throw in, as an Irish Catholic in eastern Iowa in 1925, my father and grandfather's family had the benefit of a Klan ride in front of their house, and that was what it looked like. Because there weren't any black folks in eastern Iowa. They had to pick on Catholics. You got to make do, right? D.W. Griffith filmed his Klan scenes in daylight, more like a medieval tournament than like mounted terrorists. And I got to tell you, Micheaux's night imagery is more disturbing and also more realistic. Now, my undergraduate film history text had a long chapter on D.W. Griffith, calling him the father of film technique. Back in the 1970s, back then, no one was writing about ethnic movies or what they meant to the people who created and viewed them, or the thought and creativity that went into them. And I spent 80% of my life not even suspecting that movies like Within Our Gates or directors like Micheaux even existed. And I think that's one reason it's good for people to investigate the artistic world as viewed through marginalized eyes. People on the margins often do see a side of life that's hidden from the more comfortable mainstream. Oscar Micheaux held a vision of uplift, where success followed ambition and determination, and where crimes prompted by no more than one's appearance were visible for what they were. And we should appreciate the real progress our society has made in the last 100 years. And at the same time, the work of justice and equality does remain incomplete, not least because I think some people seem to want to return to the 1920s. And in that respect, Oscar Micheaux's ideals remain just as poignant and important as ever generations after he died. And we can now share them. Again, one scholar wrote that if someone tried to pitch Oscar Micheaux's life story as a movie, it would likely be turned down as being too good to be true. People can be so much greater than the bad things that happen to us. We all have such potential, such resilience when we need it. It's worth checking out movies by Oscar Micheaux, if only to bathe in the century-old glow of that resilience. We can be so much stronger than our bad times, then or now. So, in our own time, let us draw courage from that strong and resilient aspect of human nature. Amen, and blessed be. And I'll invite you to stand as you're so inclined and sing our closing hymn, number 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty. The universe, there is no completely severed or discarded thing. This is because all things are composed in the order of that interdependent complexity we might even call divine. Nor will any of us find a separate good which is not associated in some way with the common good of all people in all places. And therefore, let us work toward a time when we can all walk in encompassing unity, where disparate persons and things may be brought into that accord of spirit in which lie peace and everlasting love. As we go from this place, may the glow of love and enlightenment guide our way, and may the rhythm of our footsteps soothe and bless the earth wherever we pass. I will now extinguish the chalice. May its light go with us into the world.